Well, it's a very special Friday feedback episode where I hear from you your thoughts about what's going on politically. We, of course, saw over last weekend the news from President Joe Biden that he will not seek re-election. We have a very rapid front runner emerging, and that is the Vice President Kamala Harris, and a lot of messages coming in from you about it, including this first one on the subreddit from a weebie who says if Harris is the nominee, it will be a repeat of 2016. The last time we had an unpopular female candidate go up against Trump, it didn't work out so good. Harris is even more unpopular. Do the math. The only one who can beat Trump is Biden. Well, the Biden ship has sailed, so it's not a particularly useful thing to keep talking about. I don't know whether Kamala Harris will beat Trump, but I know that circumstances are very different than they were in 2016. In 2016, it was the unknown of a Trump presidency, where a bunch of people said, sounds kind of funny. I don't know, how bad could it really be? I don't really like Hillary. I don't like her pantsuits, or I don't like her position on Iraq, or I believe she'll get us into 3 wars, even though obviously she wouldn't. I might stay home. I might vote Trump just for a goof. Well, we now have 4 years of Trump, including the rampant criminality, sexual assault, all of it. And so to say that just because Harris is a woman and Hillary is a woman, the outcome will be the same, it is a very different scenario. And I would be very cautious about that perspective. Now, we had a different perspective from right before Biden dropped out. Skate Cloud said, prediction, if Biden drops out, Republicans are going to get crushed at the polls. The excitement of a new candidate will rock the political world. Both Trump and Biden have the 2 highest disapproval ratings for candidates. I think even Kamala, with a strong VP, will wreck Trump when it comes voting day. What do you think? Here's what I can tell you about Kamala Harris. Before even being the nominee, she's already polling roughly the way Biden was. If indeed she becomes the official nominee and debates Trump and mops the floor with him, as I expect she would, which I think is why Trump will try not to debate her, I think she could gain conservatively 6 points from where she is right now, which could be enough. Maybe even 8 or potentially a little more. I don't know that to be a fact, but I believe it is possible. And there are growing voices that say there's a reason Republicans are flipping out about this. And it's because they're terrified. Now, on the other hand, here is a poll we ran on the David Pakman Show YouTube channel. We asked the question, is Kamala Harris more likely to defeat Trump than Joe Biden? 105,000 of you voted. 1/3 of you said Harris is more likely to defeat Trump. 2/3 of you said Harris is less likely to defeat Trump. I think we should rerun this poll in a couple of weeks and see if and how anybody's opinions have changed. When it comes to the experience argument with Kamala Harris, DDDL on YouTube said, he has literally, talking about J.D. Vance, he has literally 2 years experience as a junior senator, but Kamala is the one they say is unqualified. Make it make sense. Here's what you have to understand, D. They will use any argument they can against their opponents, even if it is an argument more accurately or better suited to themselves. They always will do it. They will do it every single time, because I have an entire chapter actually in my forthcoming book, The Echo Machine, about this. They claim to care about principles. They claim to be the principled ones. They claim to be the ones who first establish their code of morality and then simply follow it. And they don't do any of that. They will give you a set of moral beliefs and political positions in a vacuum. And as soon as they become inconvenient to whatever they're trying to achieve, they ignore it. If it's actually the case that J.D. Vance is completely unqualified by their own standard that they want to apply to Kamala Harris, doesn't matter, because it's no longer convenient. They ignore it. They come up with something different. Now, I've been reading some interesting pieces that argue that all of a sudden Trump is regretting selecting J.D. Vance. that the announcement of J.D. Vance was ridiculed by some and ignored by others, that particularly when not running against Joe Biden and Harris, but potentially against Harris and someone else, the optics are not nearly as good and the matchup is no longer nearly as powerful for J.D. Vance. I hope he is regretting it. I hope he is regretting it. All right. Nancy Paul said just moments before Biden said he's not running, and I put this message in front of you because I got so many like it. Nancy Paul said, MSNBC, or this show for that matter, talking about my show, isn't much better with all the negative talk about Biden. It's way too late to be talking about replacing him, as most states have had their primaries. Plus, why should they? Truly disgusting on the part of the media. Well, listen, Nancy, I have nothing to do with MSNBC. I can't tell you what they're doing or why they're doing it. What I can tell you is that I haven't been doing any negative talk about President Biden. I have been advising my audience about whether I believe the pressure on him to step aside has gotten great enough that there's no going back. And for months, I didn't believe the pressure on him had gotten to that level. Last Thursday, meaning 8 days ago from when this show is coming out, last Thursday, my view changed. And I started to become convinced that the pressure on Biden to step aside, the donors bailing, Pelosi bailing, Obama behind the scenes saying, probably should be reconsidered. My analysis was simply, it's getting to where it will not be able to be ignored. And people like Nancy attack me for it and say that it is negative talk and that Biden was not going to be replaced. Well, he's been replaced. And my fear is that there will be a group of angry Democrats who now are going to choose to again punish the country because they don't think Biden should have been removed. They all believe Trump's terrible, but they don't believe Biden should have been removed. Let's not make this mistake again, okay? Look at the Supreme Court today and remind yourself why we don't want to make the 2016 mistake again. Nick wrote me a beautiful message, and he says, hey there, ass packer, you scumbag demon rats are so pathetic and predictable about things you do, putting signs in your yard, then trying to take out the absolute best president in history. Stay stupid, dumbass. Excuse me, sir? I don't know what this dude's talking about, but he sends a lot of emails to us. They are quarantined in a very specific place on our server. I don't really know the connection between putting signs in your yard and then trying to take out the absolute best president. But I think what he's referring to is that the Republican shooter of Donald Trump, who used a gun that many Democrats would like to see banned, had Trump signs on his front lawn for a while, and then went and shot Trump. What point Nick is trying to make, I really don't know. I really don't know. QDog commented on YouTube and says Trump needs to win Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. A white man from the Midwest with a blue-collar background who is fresh to politics is the right choice for Trump to win. Trump is going to trounce Biden in November, and it's going to be disastrous for the country. The damage done will take 50 years to undo. I really wish Biden should step aside for the good of the country. I think means would step aside. Well, you know what, QDog? You got it. Biden has stepped aside. And now the question is whether the people who have been calling for Biden to step aside will actually unite behind whoever is the Democratic nominee. I don't know for sure that it will be Kamala Harris, but with Biden's endorsement and growing number of endorsements from other prominent Democrats, it certainly seems that things are going in that direction. Will the replace Biden advocates say, you know what? They replaced him. I'm with whoever it ends up being. Or will they say, well, I didn't mean replace him with Kamala. That's just as bad. We will see. David Saul wrote on YouTube, nothing that any of you say or will do will change the fact that as we speak, every single poll coming out of Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada have Trump winning by a substantial margin. Further, there are non-swing states, Virginia, Minnesota, New Hampshire, which are in play this election in the margin of error. In some cases, Trump has a small lead. This election is over. Trump is going to win in a landslide. If you say polls don't matter, well, the same polls had Biden winning in 2020. Donald Trump, at this point in his presidency, even with COVID, had a 45% approval rating. Biden has 36. Keep talking, trying to figure out what you're going to do. The election is over. Trump's going to win in a landslide, and there's nothing any of you can do about it. Clown icon. Well, Biden is out. It is a brand new election, and Biden will not be the nominee. Trump now is going to have to figure out a way to defeat someone who could be half or 2/3 of his age, who is going to be much better at debating, who would likely mop the floor with him if he's not too scared to debate, which it seems he's already laying the groundwork to get out of. So this is a brand new election. Let's actually consider now whatever the options are in the absence of ad hominems about Biden and concerns about age. Trump now becomes the oldest presidential nominee in American history. Are you going with the oldest nominee ever, who's a convicted felon and civilly liable rapist? Or are you going to go with a better option from the Democratic Party, likely Kamala Harris, which, by the way, as many of you know, I had the opportunity to sit and chat with the vice president a few months ago. You can argue she's not the beacon of progressivism. Okay, she's not the most progressive person. I agree with you. You can argue that, as Republicans are doing, her laugh annoys you. All right, whatever. What I can tell you firsthand, this is not conjecture. This is not through 7 different sources. I sat in a room with her, and it is hard to think of a more competent person. You know Trump's rants about electrocutions and sharks and batteries and AI? She sat and spoke to me extemporaneously about AI in deeper detail, certainly than the average person, and probably in more detail than most elected officials can do. There is zero competency or intelligence concern with Kamala Harris. Her issue is going to end up being likability and the confidence she will inspire. So if she's the nominee, we will discuss. If it's someone else, we will discuss. And remember that you can get your messages into me, info@davidpakman.com. Also remember, you can get any or all of my 3 children's books, including, importantly, in an election year, Think Like a Voter, at davidpakman.com/book. And if you are interested in being one of the first 1,000 people, that we've got about 600 pre-orders so far. If you want to be one of the first 1,000 people to pre-order my big boy book, my adult book, The Echo Machine, due out early next year, you can find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Audible, bookshop.org, wherever books and audiobooks are sold. The Echo Machine by me. I did everything wrong, and they're still publishing my book. Check that out. Let me know if you pre-order it. We'll see you on the bonus show.